Good evening to all the viewers out there. Let me just get myself properly ready for this. This evening we have family cars of the 1970s. We do have some alcohol consumption going on, but I haven't even opened a can yet, so it's not the same kind of level that it normally would be. So we'll just open up the channel page here. So I've got the comment section properly ready, because it doesn't work particularly well if I don't do that. There we go. Let's see if it's actually say yes. Oh, it's actually picked up the fact that I'm live. Good evening, Mr. G. How are you? There we are. We are now properly live and everything. Let me just scroll down and open up, put myself on mute. There we go. And we just scroll down and open up the pop-out chat section. Right, there we go. Yes, Mr. Adam Toms, good evening, sir. Let me just open up my beer. Mr. G, just heard Murray Walker has died? Really? Oh, that's a real shame. Murray Walker was one of the sort of voices of motorsport in the 20th century. That's a shame. Yeah. Jonathan Bramble, good evening, sir. Mr. Simpson, good evening, sir. We've just got some Galahad lager from Aldi. The thumbnail today is this Family Cars of a 1970s book, because we're not glorifying alcohol consumption on my channel. JDN Rotterdam, oh, good evening, sir. I'm very well, thank you. Scottish Car Enthusiast TV, Davey, good evening, sir. I'm very well, thank you. As some of you would have seen on the community page, we've been out filming some no-budget reviews this afternoon, which was most enjoyable. Paulie Pine Barons, I've got a book, it's very good. Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. Mr. Coleman had a look at it as well last time he was here. I think I got it for Christmas from my uncle. Mr. G, he was 97 of regular innings. Yes, but if you live to be 97, you're doing extremely well. Jonathan Bramble, really enjoyed the no-budget reviews of Renault Megane. Well, we hope to have another Megane on the channel at some point soon as well. That we actually can drive that properly, which will be fun. Mr. Simpson, have you got your hands on a 1980s Kia brochure yet from the home country? Not yet, sir. Maybe somebody can give me a gift of one of those. Mr. Matt Walker joined a little late. No, it's not really late, to be honest. It's not a problem. Don't worry about that. Yes, Mr. Tom Bailey. Good evening, sir. Yes, good evening. Scrubby STV Davey. Yes, it is a bit sad about Murray Walker. Mr. Adam Toms, I spent the wee small hours doing the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire car challenge. Yes, if you do it with original rules, which is the way that I've described the way that I did it, it does make it a lot easier to do. It's a lot quicker to do it like that. But it tends to be at the bottom end a little bit harder because there's not such a wide selection of cars. If you're sort of between about £2,000 and £50,000 on Auto Trader, there's loads of stuff. Ian O'Connell, good evening. I love the Renault Megane video. Always loved the Mark 1 Megane. My father had a facelift 2002 model. I think it was a Dynamique. It's a great car, comfortable, last of the proper Renaults. Yeah, it's one of the last one before they started chucking a load of electronics in them. I'm just hoping that that actually would get people to buy them. So the Mark II Laguna and the Mark II Megane were just chock-a-block full of electronics, and they all used to go quite wrong. Sometimes you do have one, but it's okay. But a lot of them just really are not, and that was a bit of a problem. Mr. Simpson spotted the Millionaire Challenge video. Should look forward to trying it. Yeah, original rules is best if you do that. Obviously, I can't dictate what you do, but those are the rules I play by. Because if I hadn't done that, the video would have taken me probably a couple of days to research, and I just don't have the time, unfortunately, to do that. Mr. G, your thoughts on the car scheme in the Midlands to scrap your car for a voucher to buy a bike? I don't think it's the right channel to sort of approve of that too much. My sister's an environmentalist who lives in the middle of Germany. She'd probably approve of that, but I don't think we particularly do. Mr. Simpson, do we sing in the car? It depends if I'm on my own or not, and on my own I don't tend to. JD in Rotterdam, I do like the 90s Laguna, that's the Mark 1. I had a nice dashboard. Somebody told me the other day that they wanted you to do a no budget reviews on a Laguna. But the thing is I can't really do one unless somebody offers me one of those, actually, and they're not very common anymore. A lot of them got scrapped. It's probably more McGann's out there, but again, the pre-facelift ones like Mr. Bill's from Woz Wheels and Jude's, the pre-facelift Mark 1 McGann's are very rare now. Don't see those around at all. So that's why he was so happy to get hold of that. Trabelli, evening all. Good evening, sir. How are you? Mr. Bill is here. Mr. Bill must have heard the discussion about Mark 1 Renault Meganes. Excellent, sir. Good evening to you. Mr. Simpson, have you got your hands on a Baleno yet? Unfortunately not, sir. Davey, Scottish Car Enthusiast TV. Going to give who wants to win their car challenge a try at some point next week. Yeah, it's pretty difficult, especially if you're having to then edit a video for it. It's complicated, but it was actually worth doing that. Mr. Simpson, good evening, Messrs. Bill and Ali. Yes, indeed. Mr. Adam Thomas, the original scrappage scheme around 2009 killed off a lot of good cars, produced over 10 years old. So a lot of 90s cars got killed off early. They probably did, but the thing is, if you've got just a normal person as opposed to an enthusiast and their car's a bit worse to wear, then getting £2,000 for a knackered old car that's worth £200 and you get yourself something that's a bit reliable, the 5-year warranty, actually did work out for a lot of people. Yeah, I'm sure we lost some nice old rare cars in that time, but for a lot of people that would have been like a lifeline as opposed to sort of having to run around in an older, unreliable car. JDN Rotterdam, yes, someone in the family in 90s Laguna looked up the registration number and by the information it was scrapped. Yes, it's I don't know if they have what system you have in the Netherlands, but over here it's quite easy to do that. Mr. Matt Walker, favourite 1980s Rover. Oh gosh, that's a really difficult one. Probably an 800 Sterling or a 216 SD3 Vanden Plas. John Edwards, I must apologise to the families of the viewers if the Millionaires Challenge calls their husbands, fathers or partners to lock themselves away hours in the scheduled darkroom. Yes, there were some nice cars I found on that. The Aston Martin that was similar to the one used in Living Daylights, only even nicer than that, was a particular find actually. That it was out a mere snip at about £350,000. It's a good job I'm not having any sherry this evening. It means I can actually think properly. Having sherry and trying to do a live stream is a little bit dangerous. Just as well, you know, we didn't do any kind of driving or anything after that. Mr. Bill, my mother's Mark III Astra was replaced by a 2009 Fiat Panda in the scrappage scheme due to certain requirements. Yeah, Fiat Panda was a classic car to buy in the scrappage scheme. You like the old Astra? Yeah. The thing is, a lot of cars just get to a certain age and they're just not worth anything. Even if they're in quite good condition, some of them, they just don't have much of the value. And that's one of the it's one of the reasons why something like no budget reviews is such a sort of fun thing to do, and lots of you kind of like it because you can buy all kinds of cars that you never able to sort of in any way attain when they were new, and yet they've lost so much money that they can be picked up for virtually nothing now. Yes, Mr. Traveleve, the Mark II Laguna is a nice looking car. Yeah, yeah. The Mark III, I think, is even better looking than the Mark II, personally. Uh, but it was unreliable. Yeah, they were unreliable. Um, he had 2 litre initial from 2004. Yes, I actually, in 2019, recommended um, that a client got rid of his Mark II Laguna and he traded it in. He got £150 for it and bought an Insignia instead. Mr. Bramble, the GSR has been off the road for 10 years. That's a Baleno, but if I get back on the road, I think no better person to review it. Well, I would like to review a Suzuki Baleno GSR, sir. I very much would like to. Mr. G, if you won the lottery, would you spend a fortune on a car? I don't know, to be honest. The real sort of classic car I would want, because obviously when I did a challenge, it would only be cars I could find and show you on Auto Trader. Would be something like a Lancia Fulvia. If I had one of those, it'd be fine, and then I'd probably buy myself a top of the range Sanyong Corando or something. Is my mother a car enthusiast? Not really. She's not really a car enthusiast. She's not really into cars so much. She did run a Morris Minor though from 1969 until 1983. That was her car actually. It was a 58. It's still around. It was in the family a long time. 83, she sold that to a colleague of my father's, and in 2005, a friend of hers bought it and restored it, and then he subsequently sold it. So it's not had too many owners. Sean Cook, if you couldn't find another R8 or a Rover 45 400, what is a similar vehicle? We'd actually discussed this in a while, and who wants to be a millionaire car challenger, because the Volvo S60 and the Skoda Superb, they're both cars I've actually reviewed on the channel, and they're both, in for sort of price points, cars I would consider replacing the 45 V6 with if I ever needed to do that. Not that I need to, but those are two cars I definitely would own. JDN Rotterdam, if there was a reason for it, yeah, a lot of 90s cars got scrapped a long time ago. We had a car scrappage scheme. If they scrapped a car, they get €1,000. 90 cars did that. I can't imagine that actually a lot of these 90s cars in the Netherlands are worth a lot more than they are over here. So sometimes that does help. John Edwards, I love sub £500 Bangonomics. I just made a small profit on the shed of the Tigra. Now the thing about that is that the Centerpod £500 challenge is all about that. It tests performance, reliability, and fuel economy, and also to some extent how easy the car is to service and things like that. That actually is something we're hoping to do quite soon. Finally get around to doing the second challenge. Ian O'Connell, I agree with you. Renault Trucks, 2004 Mark II Scenic, one before Authentique, and the key car kept going wrong. The key countless times get replaced. Mechanically was very good. I think the engine on the Mark II Megane and the Mark II Scenic was very similar to the Mark I. I can't remember exactly. I think it was quite similar. I mean, they're not bad engines actually, but the electronics are pretty bad. Borislav Dakovic, I hope I got that right. Suzuki Ignis 2020 before the facelift. Well, you can see my opinion of the Suzuki Ignis 2020 before the facelift, because that's exactly the car that I reviewed on my channel about a year ago on Tweed Jacket Reviews. I was very, very blessed to have that car whilst Mr. Richardson Furious Driving had it on loan from Suzuki UK. They also like a review as well, so I did. That's on the channel on Tweed Jacket Reviews. Mr. Bill from Wellsville. The Astra lived a lot of its life outdoors in Scotland in the wet, so rust was creeping in. Yeah, I've seen cars in Scotland rust prematurely due to that. Also, if you near the sea, it gets quite bad. It's very reliable until the end. The only problems we had were knackered battery, and those for 16 years. Yeah, they not very complicated cars, those are Mark III Astras at all. Mr. Alan Simpson, what is the review of the least reliable car you ever come across? City Rover's not great. Those are pretty bad. Those are pretty bad. Yeah. Matt Walker. Mariam Darbo from Living Daylights or Cal Taylor. Don't know who Cal Taylor is. I'm sorry. Mr. Simpson, I have particularly unfond memories of Fiat Stilos. I don't think some of them are quite as bad as you'd imagine, but they're still quite bad, if that makes sense. The chap who owned the Stilo on the channel that we did, No Budget Reviews, Phil, he's on the owners forum for that car, and a lot of them do have a few problems. Scottish car on VS I had an S60, not a car for the money I paid, but it was powered by forbidden fuel, indeed. So we won't be able to talk about that on the channel, will we? Trabelli, Simpson, Laguna 2, yeah, they weren't great. Henry Bob Blundell, any ideas of dirt cheap first cars that are a bit different? Great first cars, MG3, they start from about £2,500. If you want something really, really cheap, then you can't go wrong with something like, I don't know, Rover 45, Rover 25, something like that. You can't go wrong with one of those. They tend to be very cheap. There's a few others as well, but you know, MGZR probably the insurance is a bit high on that. Rover 25, quite possibly. Scottish Car Enthusiast TV, Alan Simpson. I do have bad memories of the Stilo Abarth. Yeah, Davey. Yeah, well, I think we've heard about that. Jonathan Brown, what's the cheapest car I've ever bought? Mine was a Ford car with a 3.2 of £50. It was a 1993 Proton 1.3 MPI GLS Saloon. It had been in the same family since new. I bought it in 2017. I meant to race at Santa Pod and never did, and I sold it for £300. I had done some work on it, so I didn't make any money on it. But unfortunately, it died quite soon after that. So yeah, I'd done 45,000 miles from new, that Proton. I think, got a thumbnail of it somewhere on the channel. JD in Rotterdam. My mother drove a Fiat Uno IE, yeah, one of the IE with 5 doors, dark blue, sporty cars. Always loved that car. The bottom was rotting out. Yeah, the Unos were not known for their resistance to corrosion. They were fun cars to drive, but not rust resistant really well. Scottish Car Enthusiasts TV, yes, you've got to be careful not to mention the forbidden fuel. Annie Armstrong, best non-Brit 4x4, probably Mitsubishi Shogun. I've had one of those actually. There's a video of that going off-road on the channel. That was filmed in January 2020. Paulie Pine Barons, do you see Vauxhall being killed with badges open in the near future? I have thought about this actually. I really have thought about it, and it could possibly happen, although Vauxhall's got so much feeling in this country of being like a home market brand that I don't think they probably will unless they really have to. It could be Stellantis does get rid of that brand and some others. I mean, Lancia is an absolute prime candidate for being killed off by Stellantis. I was amazed they haven't done that yet. I don't want Lancia to die, but they only sell one car in Italy. That's the XII, and for some reason it's consistently in the top 3 best-selling cars in Italy. That's the only reason they haven't killed it, and it's based on the Mark II Fiat Panda platform, like the Fiat 500. And amazingly, Panda Mark III, which is basically the same as a Mark II, Fiat 500, that is similar to the one that was launched in 2007. And the XII that was launched, I think, 2011. Those are all still going in Italy with the I think it's a 0.9 litre, 1 litre mild hybrid engine. Ian O'Connell, I'll tell you, the most unreliable car we've owned was a 2003 Renault Grand Espace 1.9 DCI Mark III. Yeah, I know the one. I know those actually. A friend of mine used to own a 2003 V6, one of those. The gear linkage went wrong. Second gear was gone, and the whole gearbox replaced. Yeah. I think we'd better not sort of dwell on that too much, sir. Sean Cooks, David from Scottish Car Enthusiast, don't tell the best engine you ever ran. Get out of here, Sean. You're not allowed to talk about those, and you're not allowed to say that they're good. Mr. G, we banned Depeche Mode. No, we haven't banned Depeche Mode. I don't know where he is this evening, to be honest. Maybe he didn't know it was on or something. I don't know. I forgot to mention that in the video yesterday. It was I forgot about that, unfortunately. Mr. Adam Toms, love Protons. I had a Gen 2 GSX, lovely car, and I regret selling. I have driven a Gen 2. I drove a Gen 2 Persona that had an LPG system in it. It was a demonstrator car. This was in 2012 when they were about to pull out of the market, but I kind of fancied having an LPG car. And the thing about I found was it was all right. The driving position I didn't find great, and the rear headroom wasn't brilliant, and the LPG cars, obviously, it was actually a no-cost option at the time on Protons to get an LPG system fitted by the factory. They took the spare wheel completely out because the tank sat at the spare wheel well. So you didn't have a spare wheel, which wasn't great. And I just didn't find the car particularly good to drive. It was all right. It just felt a bit basic. The handling was quite good. You know, Proton Savvy really has very good handling. The steering's brilliant. Gen 2 is the same. Very good handling and steering. The engine just wasn't particularly impressive. It was all right. But yeah, they're really cheap now, Gen 2s. Really cheap. And that's no budget reviews all over. Scottish Car Enthusiast TV. First of the K 12 micros, one reliable with electrics and ECU issues. Yep, I'd agree with that. I had to help a client get a new car because they had a K12 micro and the keyless entry had just gone totally wrong and it just wouldn't work. You've got no backup with that car. There's no keyblade or anything. You're stuck if your keyless entry fails on it, and that wasn't great. Yeah, the sort of Renault engineering, I think, was when it went a little bit wrong. The K11s were exceptionally reliable, actually. Cars, very reliable. Matt Walker, the most difficult car I had to source. I've had clients sometimes run into like whole second cycles of searching because they've not been quite happy with what we've come up with in the initial search, and sometimes they just need a bit of sort of reassurance that if they increase the budget, it's going to be okay and they get a better car. And that's happened. So yeah, I mean, difficult. Sometimes the expectations are a little bit unrealistic and we have to measure them and see what we've got. But yeah, there was one search that went wrong during the lockdown where there was a friend of mine who wanted a car. I couldn't get to where she was because the first lockdown was really strict about it. And unfortunately, the car that she eventually bought was absolutely terrible. And yeah, I eventually just said I don't want any money for what I've done. I don't want any money. The garage did take the car back, so it was okay. And then she bought another one, but that wasn't my sort of finest hour really. And I'm not going to do a job like that ever again. No way. Paulie Pine Barron's cheapest car I ever got was a C-Reg Audi Coupe 2.2 5-cylinder hard petrol for £10 in 2002. Gosh, if you had that car now, it'd be worth a fortune. Opel and Vauxhall were named as Saturn in America, same models. Yeah, to an extent. The Vectra C and the Astra H were both sold under the Saturn brand. And that disappeared. I think 2009, 2010 Saturn brand disappeared. I can't remember exactly. It's one of the two. That brand had affordable cars. Well, they were sort of relatively affordable. The Saturn brand was sort of in the middle of the General Motors hierarchy. Sean Cook, the Persona was a fine car and looked better than the equivalent Lancer. Yeah, I do fancy a first generation Proton Persona or a Wera. You have to get the right spec one because a lot of them had really rubbish spec on them, terrible spec. You know, they'd have manual windows or something like that for some reason, way after they weren't out of fashion. But if you get the right spec one, the Persona's not bad. Very good engineering on those. Traboli, Peugeot is more reliable than Renault and Citroen experience. Yeah, these things like the 406, the 205, 405, stuff like that, they're generally quite good cars. You get into sort of 207s and that starts to go a bit wrong. We don't talk about those too much on this channel, I'm afraid, because they have the Prince engines in them, and we don't talk about those either. Jonathan Brown, what's an expensive car I've sourced? That was my mother's Mercedes-Benz C200. That was, I think, was it £27,000? That's brand new. maybe. I think that's the one. Andy Armstrong, is the can of beer best for past its before date? No, not at all. I think I've just been slow drinking it tonight. Sean Cook, Trabally, Citra is equal to Persia, in my experience. Well, the C3 wasn't great on no budget reviews. That was bad. That was very bad. Yeah, that wasn't great. A lot of the cars were very similar in terms of reliability. Citroens tend to have a few more things in them to go wrong, maybe. I don't know. Paulie Pine Barons, I know it was such as someone's driving for years directly, so I'll give you a tenner for it. That's very good. Richard Yardley, the MGR V8 is a good investment car. Yeah, they're very expensive now, actually, MGR V8s. They're basically a slightly rebodied MGB brought up to 1990 standards of crash protection and emissions with a 3.9 litre rubber V8 in them. Very interesting cars. I think John Newey from Summit Garage has got one of those. He's got all sorts of lovely things. John Newey has. That's good. JD in Rotterdam. Last week I drove behind a facelift model Silver Ford Sierra 2 litre saloon. That would be 1990 or onwards. That was the sort of big facelift of the Sierra. I didn't see one of those in a while. Do you still see them in Britain? We do sometimes still see them over here. They liked to rust, the Sierras. They really did like to rust. The father of a friend of mine when I was growing up had a 1.8 LX Sierra from, I think it was an 88 or 89. And by 1996, that car was utterly rotten. So rotten. It didn't help that he did very high mileage and he used to park it next to the sea because he worked for the Navy and he had a parking space right next to the sea in Portsmouth. So that probably didn't help. But yeah, it was totally gone in about 8 years or something. It was completely dead. But there are some that have been preserved. Obviously, the Cosworths are the most valuable Sierras, and obviously, things like the 2.9 gear estates, things like that. Those are brilliant. Mr. Coleman's quite fond of those, I think. Jonathan Bramble, I think the Proton Satria GTI Lotus is going to be a big investment. I think it was just called a Proton GTI in this country. They didn't use the Satria name until a little bit later, as far as I remember. I think it was just called a Proton GTI. Mazdas. Do we see those? We do see Mazdas, but the rust protection on Mazdas from the late 90s and early 2000s is dreadful. The Mazda MX-5 that we had on no budget, sorry, it wasn't even no budget. It was before no budget. It was actually existed on Tweed Jacket Reviews. That had some rust repairs on it actually, and they're quite sort of notorious for rusting out. They just do. Mark 1s and Mark 2s in particular. But Ian O'Connell, what do you think is better family car, Signia or Vectra in terms of reliability? Oh gosh, it's really hard to say. The engineering of them is a little bit different, but the engines, the 1.8 Family 1 engine in the Insignia and the Vectra is virtually the same, particularly the post-facelift Vectra and the Insignia. The Family 1 engine in that 1.8, that only went out of production, I think, in 2014, 2015, because it didn't meet Euro 6 emissions regulations. But that engine has been around since 1982 in various forms. The same engine as in the Daewoo Nexias that I've driven. And, of course, my Astra Twin Top that I had. Don't not want to about the bid and fuel one. So 1.4 turbo in the Insignia is probably my choice. Or you can go for the crazy 3.2 V6. I think it's a 3.2 V6 Vectra. It's four-wheel drive. Crazy sort of ones. I do like the post facelift Mark 1 Insignias, the Insignia A's. It's difficult to say. It just depends what you prefer, really. They're not neither of them a 333, of course. Richard Yardley, I have an MG TF 160 and a ZS 180, both on mid-40s mileage. I doubt we won't feature. The ZS 180s and Mark 2s are actually going up and up and up in value. I don't know if you've seen my review of the ZS 180. That was also a facelift one, and those decent ones of those are worth £3, £4, £5,000 now. Worth a lot of money. MGTS, they're quite common still, but the nice ones are worth a lot of money now. Comparatively speaking, you know, probably three to four as well. You can still buy, you know, an MG ZS, that type of MG ZS, for no budget reviews money. It'd be quite a knackered one. You can't buy ZS 180 for £1,000 anymore, really. You can buy a TF, but it wouldn't be a 160. Matt Walker, any opinion on any cheap cars around today that may become modern classic? I don't want to speculate really about that. I don't really know actually. It's very, very difficult to say. The only one I know that's probably certain is an Audi TT. Mark 1 Audi TT. It's probably certain to become a classic. Volcan Cavzor. Sierra Sapphires are now rare in the UK. Yeah, they are actually. Sorry, I believe I said that. Have you ever driven a Tempra or any car platform? I have driven cars on the Tipo platform. The one I remember driving is Mr. Richardson's Alfa Romeo 145 Cloverleaf. That is on actually a Tipo platform. It's a modified one, but it is. And I'm hoping to drive another car on that platform relatively soon. The Tempras are really rare now, and the Tipos. Tempras in particular. Skoda car enthusiast TV. Cheapest car I bought was a K11 Micro I bought 4 years ago to live my youth. And my first car was a K11, 41 drive back with no speedo, please pull me over. Yeah, you can still buy K11s for virtually no money. They will one day start to go up, but at the moment they're still quite cheap. Adam Toms, 323F rotted quite badly. Yeah, they did at the time. They're pretty good cars actually. Those I do like those. They're not expensive either at the moment, but they just rot away unfortunately. AWS 21. Which car would you buy from Year of Your Birth? 82. Ford Granada Mark II Gear X. Ian O'Connell, no, Caesar V6 was a 2.8. Yeah, sorry, it was a 2.8 V6, not the 3.2. Sean Cook, the Vectra is with quite similar reliability. Yeah, a lot of the engineering is similar, particularly the engines. Vectra is the superior for visibility, maneuvering, and parking. I suppose it depends if you fit it, parking sensors and a reversing camera to the car. I think I do probably prefer the interior of an Insignia. And I bought the 2001 Ford Ka, had really, really bad rot. Had to scrap it, rust, didn't expect. Absolutely terrible rust on anything to do with the Mark 3, 4, 5 Fiesta platform. Dreadful. Cars, sport cars, Pumas, all of them. Very nice handling cars, anything from Mark 4 Fiesta onwards. Mark 3 not so much, but the 4 and 5 very good, but yeah, loads and loads of rust. Getting rotten. I think there are 3 reasons that nostalgic 89 saloons are gone. Rust to Eastern Europe, export to Eastern Europe and scrap deals. Yeah, that sounds right to me. Richard Yarley, I watched your review of the ZS 180 Mark II. Yeah, well, yeah, I enjoyed myself that day. That was very enjoyable driving that. That car is owned by Paul. Is basically a show car. It never goes out anywhere. I was really, really blessed to drive that when the day was actually raining. I couldn't believe he let me do that. I enjoyed that, but I still prefer my 45 Fix 6 and always will do, but that was quite a blast. I have done an MGTF review that was Tom's car, and that was really good as well. His is immaculate, his car as well. It's a TF135 and it's really, really good. Mr. G, how's Mr. Coleman? Mr. Coleman is doing okay. He's been working on some cars and trucks today. Jonathan Bramble, I owned an MGTF. It's got to check it was the worst I've ever experienced. I thought it was all right. I mean, the Astra we had that was pretty bad as well. Everything used to rattle in that. So maybe I was just a bit sort of spoiled when I got to the TF and it wasn't so bad. Travel any car from the Avengers or any car professionals. The thing about the Avengers is that a lot of those are really old now. I mean, Avengers finished in '69, and probably one of the only cars I'd have from that series would be a Mark 1 Triumph 2000. Probably have one of those. Professionals, oh, loads of things. Dolomite Sprint, Mark 2 Granada. Quite like the Capris, although they are difficult to get in and out of. And they are, real man's cars. Very kind of heavy cars to drive. You have to be very kind of brutal with the gearbox and the brakes to make them work properly. Four-Con cars. What colour would the Granada Gear X be? I would go for dark blue with the blue Chatsworth interior personally. Annie Armstrong, night. Yes, good night, sir. Right, do we have any more questions out there, please? Yeah, dark blue was a nice colour. Mr. Commons' one Estrada Silver is also really nice, but yeah, Jonathan Bramble, Scuttle Shake was bad. It was a brilliant car. They are fun, once you get used to the gearbox in a TF, because it does feel a little bit different from a front-wheel drive car or in a rear-wheel drive car. The gearbox does feel quite different because the engine's behind you. So once you're kind of used to that, then it's pretty good. The handling's really good. Richard Yardley, how about the new Avengers TR7 SD1? I wouldn't have the TR7 particularly. It's not quite me. The SD1 in the new Avengers broke down constantly. It was very badly made, unfortunately, at the time. The later ones are better, actually. I think with the SD1s. The early ones were very bad. I quite fancy the XJS actually that Gareth Hunt had, although I have a different colour, but quite fancy that actually. Of course, could be drove a white one in Return of the Saint. Chip is what type of choice? It's some Galahad Lager from Aldi. Sean Cook, 82 facelift SD1 Vanden Plas EFI. Well, with that was the facelifted one in 82. So, yeah, they're pretty good. I do like those. JDN Rotterdam, did you have the Kia Joyce? I'd have to look up what the Kia Joyce actually is. It could be a different name in this market. Just take a look and see what the Kia Joyce actually is. So I don't even remember what that is if I've ever seen one personally. Just take a look. Kia Joyce, right, here we go. What is Kia Joyce? Oh my gosh, what is that? No, we didn't get that. No, we didn't get that. The other name for it is the Kia Carstar, weird name, and then the Hyundai Santamo, which is related to the Mitsubishi Space Wagon, apparently. Well, you learn something new every day, don't you? Yeah, the Mark II Mitsubishi Space Wagon, also known as the Hyundai Santamo. How strange. Yeah, Four-Can Cavzor, yeah, Kia Joyce, yeah, it's sort of MPV type thing. We didn't get that. We got the Carens instead, but I think it was a bit smaller than that. I have driven a Carens, and it had the forbidden fuel, so we can't really go into that too much. Trebly's asked me, the Granada Gear X from 85 2.8, I presume with a nice Weber carburettor on it, or the SD1 3500 Vanden Plas. Oh, I don't know. Gosh, I like both of those. I think I'm still going to go with the Granada. Don't shoot me. Richard Yardley, no scuttle shake in the TF160. That was strengthened substantially over the F. Far less flexible than Mark II MX5. I thought Mark II MX5 was okay with scuttle shake. I don't remember it being particularly bad. Don't remember it being particularly bad or anything. Yeah, but TF, yeah, it was all right. It was a decent car. The only thing I would say is it didn't feel quite as fast as I was imagining it to be. I don't know why that'd be. Maybe I wasn't used to it or something. The TF160 probably would feel very fast because that's got the VVC engine in it. Rotterdam, yeah, Mitsubishi Space Star, yeah. No, not the Space Star. The Space Star was a completely different car. It's not the same. It would be the Space Wagon. It's a much bigger car, 7-seater. Chippers, you had anything off the synthetic fuels that have been developed by various companies such as Porsche could hit petrol cars going? I haven't actually. No, I haven't actually heard about that. Davies, Connor's Car VS TV, 1983, year of birth, 205 came out as a car of choice. Yeah, can't blame him for damning 205. Revolutionary car when it came out. Still competitive 10 years later, and they barely facelifted it. Extraordinary car. Four-can Cavs, interesting Chinese cars. It depends what you define by Chinese car. Do you mean actually domestic market ones, or do you mean the ones they actually sell over here? Because of, you know, MGs are Chinese cars now, they're made in China. Bad Books, classic film Rita, Sue and Bob 2. I've heard of that. A variety of other British alien cars. Well, maybe I should look that one up because it sounds like it could be interesting. Jaden Rotterdam. My father had one of those, which was the Kia Joyce with a 2-litre engine. It was on the limiter at 195 kilometres per hour. That's pretty fast. You feel like you go faster. 7 seats. That's probably quite well equipped car for about 2000, 2002. Jonathan Bramble. I've owned an MX-5 with TF. The TF felt faster. MX-5 more stable. I like them both. I do like them both. I was discussing this with the owner of the car. I've just filmed for No Budget Reviews today, and he asked me that question. And it is a difficult question to actually answer. Which one's better? It depends what you prefer, really. If you want a mid-engine car, then the TF is for you. If you want a front-engine rear-wheel drive car, not GMX-5. I like both of them, but I would say the steering MX-5 is probably a little bit better. It's just my personal opinion. And if you thoughts on TVRs, I've never driven a TVR. Don't know a huge amount about them, I'm afraid. Yeah, I don't really know much about those. Sean Cook, 67. Save hard for an Interceptor FF. Yes, Jensen Interceptor FF. Very, very good. Richard Haller, evening. Lines are being late. Well, Mr. Coleman is the headmaster, so he'd be giving you the lines, not me. Alan Toms, 1989. The MX-5. Yeah, it's a decent choice as well. Furkan Kavzor, domestic Chinese car we don't get over here. Ooh. Yeah, there's some really fascinating kind of rip-off cars and kind of old models that get facelifted over there. The Maestro that got the Montego front end on it, and the Volkswagen Santana that refused to die until about 2013, and a Mark II Jetta and all kinds of things. Yeah, yes, interesting stuff sold over there we don't get here. Chip is worth looking at. The fuels are carbon neutral, or so they claim. Or so they claim. Yes, it's always that. They've been trying to crack that nut for ages. Traffic spokesman, how reliable to own is the 45 V6? Well, you could actually look at the latest ownership report on the 45 V6. It was recorded, as far as I remember, very early January. It's on the ownership reports playlist and on the channel, and you'll be able to say, I listed all the things we had done to it. Up until that point, we thought the head gaskets had gone, which they didn't actually. It's just the thermostat housing that just needs replacing at some point. What's the least reliable car in? Mark II. Sorry. The Astra H twin top. That wasn't great. That wasn't very reliable, unfortunately. The roofs on those are an absolute nightmare on the Astra H twin tops. Absolute nightmare on the roofs. And loads of other stuff as well. That's one of them. I've had others as well that have been bad, but that's just the one that's recently sticks to my mind. Bad Books, MX, Mark 1 MX-5 6 in a row. Well, yeah. I mean, if it's anything like the Mark II, because the Mark II handles beautifully. Mr. Saxby, hello, I'm late again. Well, sir, you maybe should have paid attention to the community post, but there we go. Thoughts on the Mark 5 and 6 Escort? I don't really want to drive the pre-facelift Mark 5 Escort because they aren't, they're not wonderful really. Mark 6, the post-facelift Mark 5 and the Mark 6 I think are very interesting. Even though at the time they weren't particularly well regarded, they're pretty sort of reliable cars actually for their time. Mr. Coleman and I actually discussed that recently. Forkan, because I'm not very lucky because it's a Vauxhall Vectra and Mark 7 Ford Escort. Mark 7 Ford Escort wasn't too bad. Something called a Mark 6, something called a Mark 7. They're not too bad. Mr. Saxby, apparently review any Fords in the future. Yes, I am. I've got one lined up actually. That's going to have to wait until lockdown eases a little bit further to go and see that one. I have got one lined up. I'm looking at the MG Patrol. I think you mean the MG HS probably. We only have the EV and the PHEV in the Netherlands. That'll be the plug-in hybrid HS, level 1 litre engine. Yeah, it'd be nice if MG would just sell the ZS 1 litre automatic and the manual in the Netherlands and other countries, but unfortunately they're all going electric now, so that's maybe what it is. Traffic spokesman, what was the name for the Astra replacement? Based on, it's sort of half based on the Insignia and half based on the Astra, sort of half between the two. The Cascada, very, very rare car. Don't see many of those at all. Jonathan from Bramble, Nissan Figueros deserve the hate to attract. It's not really a gentleman's car, it's more a lady's car, that one, and they are quite slow, and they really are just a K10 Micro underneath. I don't hate them particularly. Never driven one. Sean Cook, I passed a late Saxo earlier today. Yes, we have a review of a late Saxo on Tree Jacket Reviews. That was filmed October 2019. Took me back because I passed my test in the Saxo. Richard Howlett, what cars came out in 1964? I was going to say the Ford Corsair, but that was 63. Vauxhall Victor 101 FC. There you go. That's one of them. Adam Thomas. My uncle had a 1991 Mark V Escort before the facelift, the old 1.3 engine, up with the CVH, I think. Yeah, horrid sounding engine. I drove that engine in a Mark III Escort, and it wasn't too much fun. Mr. Saxby, not a problem there. Quite rare. Yes, they are rare. Travely, Hampshire, Surrey is counted living. I don't really know. I lived in both. Basically, the place in Surrey I lived in was almost on the border of Greater London. It was about 2 miles from the border, so a bit different from most of Surrey. And Hampshire, we're almost on the coast here, so quite contrast really. Which is Yardley. The Focus Mark 1 is apparently better than the Mark 2 and becoming more collectible. I haven't driven the Mark 1 Focus for a number of years now. I looked at one with a client, I think in about 2017, 2018. Mark 2 I have driven, but not for 12 years. I think the last time I drove one. I drove a Mark 2 1.6 facelift, and it was kind of slow and not too much fun. I seem to remember. A bigger engine might be better. Sean, Figaro's are beautiful, but the suspension is very basic. Yeah, it's a K10 Micro, so it would be. They're well designed. Yeah, some people think they're a lot older than they are. Henry Bob Blundell, the ABS on a Mark II Focus, I presume, cut in too early. I've not tried that myself. Terrific spokesman, what do you think of the Nissan Pal and the S Cargo, the other cars from the Pike factory on the Figaro? I think my favourite one of those is called the B1, to be honest. Not so fond of the S Cargo. And Nissan Pal, I don't know, it looked a bit like a noddy car to me. Not really, but it's always the impression I get with Nissan Pal. Sean Cook 1964 and a half. Was the first model year of a Mustang was actually 1964 and a half or 65, depends on your opinion. But they were launched April 64. H. Saxby, Echo Sport or Puma? No, Echo Sport's not good. Puma. Richard Howlett, my father bought a brand new Vauxhall Victor 101 in 1966. Yeah, you can see Victor 101s in the Champions, actually. They have a couple of those. Scottish Crown Enthusiast TVs. Davey, my father had two Mark Ferguson's 1.3 engine pre-facelift and a facelift when pre-game fuel injection. That's got 5 and 6 people chartered. Yeah, I imagine a lot of people's chartered because they're the best-selling car in the country at the time. Fulcrum Kezora, I recommend watch old Turkish car adverts. Yeah, I've seen one of those. I can't remember what it was for. It was interesting. Was it? Oh, dear. Oh, what was the name of the national car? It was directed by Reliant. Oh, I've forgotten the name of it now. I'm sure you'll know what I mean. I've forgotten the name of it. Terrific spokesman. Nissan Figaro is truly good detail and very good paint quality. They do rust though, like any Nissan of the period. They do rust a bit. Depeche Mode. I was wondering when you were going to turn up. Nissan Figaro. Sorry. Who watched the F1 testing? Really enjoyed it. I don't really watch F1, sir. I'm afraid. JD in Rotterdam. 2008. I imported a 2001 Opel Omega 2.5 Caravan, which is the estate. This is the Vauxhall Omega as well. Special luxury spec we didn't have in Holland. Felt like a king in the back of the car. Back of the car's rotting badly. Yeah, we did get that over here, of course, and I do have a review of a pre-facelift Omega B on our channel, which belongs to Mr. Coleman. That was quite a car. The 2.5 V6 is fantastic. Trick Spokes was B1, yeah. Switch on to TV. Mark 1 Focus, best driving Focus. Mark 2 is not too bad. Mark 3 is not great. Mark 4 Focus has been brought back into driving experience. I might be doing a Mark 4 Focus actually at some point this year. I have been offered it, but it hasn't turned up yet because it's brand new. So yeah, we might be doing one of those at some point. I have driven a Mark 3. I drove up my Autobahn actually. It was all right. It just felt like a normal car to me. It didn't sort of stand out particularly in too many ways. Richard Yardley, no, I haven't driven a right-hand drive Mustang. Fulcrum Kozor, yeah, the Anadol. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't remember the exact name. The Anadol was the first ever Turkish exclusive car. 1989 S-Class or 1988 BMW 750 IL. BMW, I think, for that one. Saxby, Mr. Saxby, Focus is generally good cars. Well, I can see 5 of them. Ford Connected has all of the Focus. That's not surprising. They don't have such big sales figures these days, but they used to have so loads of them. Depeche Mode, yes indeed. Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. Sure, Scottish Enthusiast TV. Mark Focus never better or equalled. Part of the rot was pretty bad on motor. Rot was quite bad. Andy G, have you ever told anyone after broken down? I certainly have. When we did the first ever Santa Pod challenge, which was for my stag do in 2017, we had this car that we all used. We bought specifically for the event. It was a 1998 Mazda 626 2-litre GSI, and that had a new clutch in it. So we did 14 runs in that car at Santa Pod throughout the course of the day. And on one of the runs, whilst I was driving, the clutch on the Skoda Octavia VRS that a friend of mine had brought along, it went, and I'm afraid I had to go halves on him with a new clutch in that car. We had to actually tow that car back to the hotel, and so I towed it in the Mazda. The Mazda, of course, we didn't really care about, so we towed the Octavia in it. It was one of the scariest experiences of my life because the towing eyes didn't line up, and it felt like the car was constantly crabbing, and every time you started off, it was a horrible creaking noise. I thought the strap was going to break, but it didn't. It was tied on properly, and we got it back to the hotel, and then the breakdown service got called because you cannot be recovered from Santa Pod breakdown. The breakdown service will not come in and take your car. So we took it back to the hotel, and the called breakdown service, and I took it away. And then I think the car got sold to someone in Poland or something, and I helped him source a new car. Chippers, that's so kind of you. Thank you so much for for your super chat contribution. As we had last week from I think it was Davey who from Scottish Car Enthusiast TV. We have a super chat feature, just a way for someone to contribute towards the channel, and that will go towards the lunch that I bought today whilst I was filming. So thank you very much indeed to Chippers for that. That's really helpful. Yes, we were wondering where Depeche Mode was because the life and soul of the party. Richard Hallen, it's about Saddle Murray Walker. I think we discussed that right at the beginning of the live stream, actually. Have you ever drive an old Eastern European car? No, sadly, I kind of want to try one, maybe a Skoda Estelle, something like that. Depeche Mode, you're not really just popular. Yes, you are very popular now, sir. You are a source of much discussion. Sean Cook, Mazda 6's GSI was wonderful. Yeah, it's a pretty good car, to be honest, actually. It's still going, that one, funny enough. It's brilliant. My cousin put a camber on it after we took it down to pod, and it's still going. It didn't suffer any ill effect at all. Scottish Enthusiast TV, yeah, Mr. Depeche Mode. Bad Books, hello Depeche Mode. Murray Walker's in some Austin adverts, Mr. Saxby. Which Austin adverts were those, sir? Rio Spokesman, Depeche Mode, yes, it's very funny. For Falcon Cavzor, cross-side when he's 66 GSI. The GXI was even better. That was even better equipped. The GSI had wheel trim. The GXI, you got some alloy wheels. Sean Cook, get the finger out, Depeche Mode. Hit the like button, Depeche Mode. We're all a close-knit family on this channel. Mr. Saxby, yeah, I think you're right. You're right. Yes, I think it was the Austin Metro that Murray Walker appeared in. Bad Books. Cars launched in my year of birth, 1970. Mark 1 Toyota Celica, Mark 3 Cortina. The Morris Marina wasn't launched till 71, sir, so we're okay. We're absolutely fine. We don't need to worry about that. I'd go for the Mark 1 Celica personally out of those. A Mark 3 Cortina is not too bad though. We've got about 3 minutes left before we have to end, I think, because this has gone on for a little while, but that's not a problem. Mr. Saxby, it's on YouTube. Yes, the Austin Metro Murray Walker advert. Sure, we can take a look at that little while. Right, any of you have any other questions before we finish and I have a little sip of my beer? Davey, Scottish Grand Prix TV, Murray Walker, Eric Idle and Nigel Mansell. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, Eric Idle was a salesman in that. Depeche Mode. What was Car of the Year in 1968? I think it was the NSU R080 because that was launched in 67. It's always the year after it gets launched. Annie G. Okay, 1971. Why don't you pick a car from that year, sir? Fuck, was a Rover P6. Yeah, that's a decent car. I am hoping to drive one of those later this year because Mr. Richardson from Furious Driving, as you know, has got 2 of those. He's got a 2000 and a 3500. And hopefully one of those will go on the road at some point this year. Right, I think we probably have been going long enough now, and we're probably going to have to sort of end quite soon. Depeche Mode, Austin 7. I don't think he's that old, so. Fucking Cavzor. No, it wasn't. It was Car of the Year 1964, the P6 that came out in 1963. Mr. Saxby, yes. A full review, yes. It will come at some point, yes. Julian Rotterdam, can you show that 66 one day in a video? I've got a picture of it somewhere. I can't show there is actually video of it, but the video is unlisted because it's got copyright material in it, and one of my friends has his own channel, so I'd only be able to show that to somebody sort of in private. I wouldn't be able to show it in sort of general sort of public, really, because we did actually have a special video made of Stag Weekend and the things we got up to, which was a lot of fun. It was hilarious. I remember blasting the Skoda Octavia VRS in a drag race in a BMW i3. That was very, very funny. Depeche Mode, thanks, Bad Books. Don't be sad, sir. Don't be sad. Mr. G, yes, indeed. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Mother's Day tomorrow. It is Mother's Day tomorrow, and we are going to visit my mother tomorrow, and bring out a little gift. Depeche Mode. We shouldn't sort of name ages on this channel, should we? We should not do that. Yes, thanks for the live chat. No problem. She'll take part of these. We won't be doing one next week because I'm actually working next Saturday. I've got a job, so won't be doing one next week. Bad books. Actually, Mark 1 Capri. Mark 1 Capri came out 69 bad books. Furkan Kavsur, good night. Looking forward to the Cartoon platform. Yes, I do actually have. Yeah, that'll be coming up probably next month. This has to be no problem. Right, let's call it a day then. Right now, Sean Cook, also on DG. HSP was a card in 2005. I can't honestly remember now. Right, good night, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Like this video, leave a comment below, and we'll have another episode of No Budget Reviews on Monday. And good night to you as well, Mr. Bill.